it's important for people to know if they do decide to work with me, I do kind of hashtag your forever agent. I really mean it. And that's what I want people to know, that just because we closed on a home doesn't mean that our relationship is going to end.
Welcome, everyone, to the Closing Table Podcast, real accounts from real estate professionals, brought to you by WindowStill. I'm your host, Kat Schooler, and today I'm sitting down with real estate agent Carolyn Crooks. Carolyn is an agent out in northern Indiana with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, and today we talk about how Carolyn immigrated to the United States from Canada and how she started her real estate business in Indiana knowing no one. We talk about some of the biggest lessons Carolyn has learned in real estate and how it's in a relationship-based business. And stick around to the end, where Carolyn shares with us how she's shaking up her social media game and making sure she's bringing an authentic presence to her social media. So without further ado, let's jump right in and talk to Carolyn. Carolyn, thank you so much for joining me today. Can you start our listeners off with how you got started in real estate?
Yeah, actually, it was really kind of organic. It wasn't a career that I was pursuing. I had moved here from Aurora, Ontario, so just north of Toronto. I was going through immigration. So after a 21-year stint at a Porsche dealership as a financial services manager up there, I had to figure out what I wanted to do with my life in Indiana. While I was going through immigration, I was just out for dinner one night, ran into a couple sitting at the bar. She was a realtor. She was like, "You should do real estate." And I was like, "I do not know anybody." Like, literally, "What's your name?" "Great, I now know you and my husband." She's like, "You don't need to know anybody." So she kind of pursued me for a couple of months, and finally I was like, "All right, I'll check it out. Let's see what it's all about." And here we are. It stuck. Got licensed through that time. Did all my courses.
And that's all she wrote. Awesome. Do you still keep in touch with the person who kind of like started it all?
I didn't, which is really unfortunate. She was a great mentor to me, but I was on a team with her at the time, and that wasn't the environment that I was looking for. I'm a pretty independent worker. I don't like micromanaging. I do my follow-up the way I do my follow-up. And so she had decided to leave the brokerage, and that's kind of when I took my opportunity to make the split and stay with the brokerage when she chose to leave. And she has since moved out of state. But I wish that we did keep in touch.
Gotcha. It makes sense. Sometimes you just drift apart. So you are not a native that's not a word, a native Hoosier, right?
Yes.
My dad is from Indiana, so my grandma lives there. So I'm pretty familiar with the area. And then we're in Michigan, so Toronto's like not too far away, from Southeast
No.
Michigan. But for people who don't know Northern Indiana, can you tell everyone what you love about kind of working in that area, especially as someone who's a transplant?
Yeah, I would say it was a big adjustment at first. The town that I lived in up there was about 70,000 people, just north of the city. So then to move here with the smaller towns, and the town I actually live in here, I think is like population about 1,200 people. But what I have grown to love about Indiana is the openness of it. I do love that it's not all this like really congested metropolitan areas, and I love visiting those areas. And it took me about a year to get to that spot where I appreciated the fact that we have a little bit of acreage where we live, and my neighbors aren't 5 feet beside us. So I think that's one of the things that I love, is watching a lot of clients in Indiana will say to me, "We want to find something, outside of South Bend, Mishawaka, Granger, Warsaw. We want to find something in the country with a little bit of property." And I find that that's a pretty common theme for people, that they would like to be a little bit removed from that and just be close enough to have the opportunity to visit or go in for shopping or whatever they need to do.
Housing is pretty well known to be pretty affordable in Indiana too, right?
Yes, yeah, that was another big shock for me moving here. Kind of like a famous story between my husband and I when we were purchasing our house. He had sent me the listing, and I was like, "Nope, we can't do it until I'm far enough through immigration to sell the property here. There's no way we can afford it," because I just assumed he missed a zero. And he was like,
Mm.
"I'm what?" I'm like, 1.6, there's no way. He was like, "It's $160,000, and we're probably gonna have to put like 100,000 into it." But I was like, "Wait, what?" So yes, housing is super affordable. It has gone up obviously over the last 5 years, just like every other state has. but it's still a super affordable place to live when looking at homes.
And like, so my grandma lives in Lebanon, and I've just like seen which is like about 45 minutes outside of Indianapolis, I think. And to see like kind of the growth of that one small town over my lifetime is incredible. And I'm sure just across the whole state, it's the same.
It is. We've had a lot of growth, a lot of industry coming in. Like Amazon was opening a plant in Elkhart. Warsaw is known as like an orthopedic capital. So we've got a lot of growth that happens in that area. And I think just overall, people have also decided to like move back, through COVID. So new housing construction has increased, and we've just seen kind of an influx of people that just want to move back to their roots, where they're from, affordable housing, kind of work from home if they're able to.
Awesome. So when you are meeting with clients in that first meeting, what is it? What are you going over? What is it like for clients to work with you?
I think initially the first meeting, I just want to get to know them and what they're looking for. And I want to make sure that they're comfortable with me, because I don't want somebody to feel like, oh, you were referred to me and I need to use you. Or there's been some people that I just met and they're like, oh my gosh, you're a realtor. We're looking to buy a house or sell our house. So I do like to just sit down with people, have a conversation with them, kind of get a better sense of who they are, what they do for work, what their plans are, if they have children. If they do, what are the ages? What is it that they're looking for? And I want to make sure that they've got an opportunity to ask me questions, whether it's business related or personal, so that they can feel comfortable working with me. I think one of my biggest things in real estate is that it's relationship based. For me, it is. And my last profession was as well. Nobody needs a Porsche. Nobody walks through those doors because that's what they need to drive. It's what they want, and it's a dream. And they're going to work with who they like and who they're comfortable with. So I think that it's important for people to know, if they do decide to work with me, I do kind of hashtag your forever agent, which is something that Berkshire Hathaway has also picked up as kind of a slogan. But I really mean it. And that's what I want people to know, that just because we closed on a home doesn't mean that our relationship is going to end.
Oh, that's so sweet. And it is. So many people I talk to, it is such a relationship business. Do you have any like favorite client stories maybe that you've helped, buy or sell their home?
I don't know that I could pick, because I feel like at the end, I'm okay. So there's definitely some that I'm like, wow, I'm really glad that transaction's over. And maybe I'm not going to have a relationship with that client forever. But I do feel kind of at the end, I feel sad with a lot of them. A lot of them I've been working with for quite a while to find a property, and I've gotten to know them and their families. So I don't think I have any like specific client stories that I can say, this was a favorite for me, because they all kind of hold a special spot for me depending on their situation.
Totally. Is there like one where you really feel like you went above and beyond, or maybe experienced some kind of challenges that it was like, really a relief to cross that finish line?
I don't know. I mean, there's definitely always ones where I'm really relieved to cross the finish line, whether it's been issues with the lender and underwriting, or we've had some appraisal issues, or, inspection issues. And I can kind of lump like a whole bunch of them together. I know I had a transaction that the appraisal, it was an FHA. And there was peeling paint on the exterior. And so it had been scraped, sanded, repainted. And the appraiser was like, there's still paint chips on the ground. And we're like, okay, it's lead-based paint. Like, you touch it and it shatters, So like the clients even bought like a outdoor shop vac, sucked it up. He came back again, still paint chips. So we bought mulch, and I went over and I helped them, and we mulched that whole area, made it look like a little landscape bed. And he came back and was like, okay, no problem, but it was just frustrating for buyer and seller. Like, is this ever going to close? What's happening here?
Wow. And I'm sure that happens to so many people, and they're so thankful to have people like you who can kind of help them think outside the box.
Yeah, I think that's another thing, is just being able to have great relationships with other agents, so that you can also work together to say, okay, we need to get this to closing.
What is like one of the biggest lessons you've learned in real estate?
Honestly, I think that one of my biggest takeaways, and I do mentor agents that come through as new agents is just to be completely transparent and open with your clients. If you don't know something, tell them you don't know. Let them know that you're going to find out for them, though. And when there's difficulty, take as much of that stress off of them as you can, but make sure you're keeping them informed still so that they know exactly what's happening in the transaction. There's no surprises for them when you're like, hey, you know what, this isn't going to go through. They understand why. Or if you need to get some more information from them, they know all the way through what's expected. But maybe take an opportunity to digest it yourself, because as an agent, I'm not emotionally invested in the home and the outcome. I am for my clients, but not for myself. And I think that that's a different emotional connection to the transaction. And so I do advise other agents, make sure you keep your clients informed every step of the way. Don't hold anything back, but also try to absorb as much of that stress for them as you can to get them through everything. It's an arduous process. And even people that have been through it before forget, and then they get back into it and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe everything we still have to do.
As a mentor, what kinds of other pieces of advice do you find yourself kind of giving over and over again to newer agents?
Call me if you have any questions. I'm available. I think, again, I like to focus on the relationship building. So it's definitely get to know your clients, get to really listen. And I had a general manager years ago that used to always even say to us as sales reps and financial services managers at the dealership, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen twice as much as you talk when you're with a client so that you're really understanding what it is that they want. And I think that that's an important thing to remember, that it's not our house. We aren't going to live there. We're not going to pay for it. So we really need to understand what it is they want.
Oh, I think that's great. And I think that's maybe not just applicable to real estate,
And I think the other thing that I do definitely advise agents of, and all of my clients when I'm working with them on a purchase, is location. Make sure you like where the house is located. It could be your dream home in an area that you don't like, and you're never going to be happy there, ever. So you can make changes to the house, but we can't change its location. So that's another thing I always let new agents know. Make sure that you know that your clients really love the location where they're buying the house, and that you're not finding something outside of the locations they want that they're going to be settling on.
Excellent advice. Carolyn, do you feel like there are any myths about real estate that a lot of people believe that you think are wrong?
So I know even when we bought our house here, my husband had no idea what went into a real estate transaction. He went right to the listing agent. He just assumed she just cut half of her commission. Really, what was she doing? She was just opening the door for him to come see the house, and then he was just buying it. And I think that is a common misconception that people have about real estate, is that, we're door openers and then we show up to closing and we get paid. And they miss all the things that happen in the middle that we help facilitate, that we make sure are on time with your contracts so that you're not out of contract on anything. And really just get you from that beginning accepted offer part all the way through to, here are the keys to your new house.
What are some of the things that have to happen for people who don't know, for first-time home buyers or people who haven't bought a home in 20 years and they forgot? What are the steps between offer and closing?
Yeah, I know. And that's the other thing I'll say to people that are moving here from out of state, whatever you did in your previous state might not be the same here in Indiana. So I go through that process with them to let them know, once we have found a home, we have to get everything over to your lender. I like to let people know not to get frustrated with their lender, because yes, they have a pre-approval, but now that they're actually under contract, that file has to go through to underwriting, and they really start to do a deep dive on everything. So they're going to start asking for more information, and it's stuff that maybe they didn't know that you needed when you started this process. So I do like to advise clients about that with their lenders too. Please don't be frustrated with them. They didn't know you were going to need this in the beginning. You need to order appraisals right away in the state of Indiana. It is stated right in our purchase agreement. So we can't just sit back and wait for a home inspection to be completed and then move forward with an appraisal. And it is a little bit of a catch-22, but if we time it right, we can get the appraisal back, make sure it's at value, whatever those repairs are, and then have the inspection done, depending on the length of closing. And I think that people don't realize that there are deadlines to these things too. Time is of the essence, and we write our contracts in such a way that, hey, appraisal has to be ordered immediately. That is already in our state contract so that we can get things moving and make sure that we close on time. But inspections, typically sellers don't want to give you any more than 2 weeks to have inspections done, because then you have to respond and then they have to decide if they want to make any repairs. And that's another thing in the state of Indiana. Sellers aren't obligated to make repairs just because they accept an offer with inspections. But you also can't just walk away from a transaction here if you don't like the inspection. You do have to give the seller the opportunity to make those repairs. And if they're not able to, or they don't want to, and they're major significant items that are wrong with the home, then we can look at your next steps. But once we get through all of that, then we have to make sure that we've got our clear to close, that you're ready for everything. We've got wiring instructions, title information. And it's all of the things kind of in between that are stressful that people don't realize. Especially, I think I just spoke with a client that was considering selling their house for sale by owner, and I was helping them purchase. And at the end of their purchase, they were like, no, we're just going to list with you when we're ready. We have some work that we want to do with the house, but we would really love it if you would represent us, because that was a lot.
Yeah, I can't imagine someone doing it by themselves when you explain it all like that. Especially if they haven't done a transaction in Indiana before, if they did a transaction in a different state where it didn't have all these particulars.
Yeah, it's tough. And I think that's part of the misconception, that we just open doors. I mean, really, we're helping you arrange inspections. If you're finding an inspector that isn't an affiliate of our MLS, we're coming here and meeting them and letting them back into the property, or even the seller's home if the seller can't be there, so that inspections can be completed. And I think those are all the things that people forget. Oh, I need to make myself available for all of that. Or I've got somebody that understands all the real estate laws for this state that can help me make the best decision and can be there for me when I need help.
Yeah, because if you're trying to do it all by yourself, I mean, gosh, you'd have to take 2 weeks off of work, and no one wants to take 2 weeks off of their job to do that. You'd rather go to vacation.
And I think the other thing is, again, it's usually, unless you're working with an investor or even with an estate, it's an emotional, you've got a big emotional connection, whether it's on you're selling your home that you've lived in, that you put your blood, sweat, and tears into. So it's easy to be offended, working with a buyer if you're working with them directly. Whereas if you've got an agent on each side representing the clients, and the realtors have a good working relationship, we're able to, I can't even think of the word, but maybe articulate what it is that our buyer or seller is looking for, and then work together to come up with a solution so that everybody's happy. And I find it just taking that emotional component out of it, so that we can look at it as a business transaction and say, okay, this is what makes the most sense business-wise. And if you were in the other person's shoes, can you see it from their viewpoint?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. Kind of having the agents gives kind of some emotional distance in a positive way.
Yeah.
Do you have any goals that you made for this year? And we're halfway through the year, so how are they going?
I always set goals and intentions for myself at the beginning of every year. Some of them are transaction based, which I've surpassed. I'm more than halfway where I need to be based on transactions that I had set for myself. But another thing that I had really wanted to work on this year, and I've always been good on social media, but I wanted to kind of step up my social media presence. So things have been going well there. Also, I just finished a series of videos that I did with my videographer that she just sent over to me. So I'm going to start uploading those and posting them. And one of them is kind of, who am I? How did I get here? But just a short, under 2 minutes video. She wanted to do one that was like craziest transaction that I've had. So we've done that, and weird story and freakiest thing that's happened to me at a showing. So those are all videos now that I'm working on that aren't just me filming myself. They actually have some good production quality to them, which is something that I wanted to do and really focus on this year.
Oh, that's so fun. Well, we all look forward to checking them out, you know. In terms of social media, I guess I'm always curious what agents are doing, right? Because marketing and branding is such a big component. Do you think that's something you'll continue to do, is having these, you know, kind of more production style videos made?
I think so. I'll never get away from. I mean, trends change, and I get it. And algorithms, you know, when Instagram first started, it was just post a story, like post a picture, and then it was you need to be on video more. You have to post reels, and there's a lot more emphasis on stories now, and bringing people along with you so that they can see you're this actual person that has a life. And I get up in the morning and have no makeup on, go to the gym, and I'm sweaty. That they can see all those things, not just. And I have had multiple conversations with people outside of the industry. And it's also something, if you really get into, people that are high level real estate coaches and social media, that say the only people that care that your house is pending or that you closed on a property are you and the person that bought it or sold it. And so trying to get away from all of those, you know, I pended on this property today, I closed on this property today, trying to get away from that and just trying to be more organic and authentic in myself and my personality so that people can see why they might like to work with me versus, okay, obviously she sells houses, but who am I really dealing with?
I think you hit on something really important there, you know, about about putting those kind of just listed, just sold posts, because we see a lot of them, and I think where they're valuable is to know that you're still in real estate, right? Because people do often leave real estate. So, you know, if we see a recent post of that nature, like, we know you're still in the game. But ultimately, I like what you said, is that the only person that really cares is you and your client on the other end of that. And so while I think those do have a place, there is a big room, or a lot of room, for more.
Yeah, and so I've started to get away from them a little bit. I'm still posting on my stories because my office will always put together an actual post for us for Just Solds. And I'll share that to my stories so that people can say, okay, I just closed on a property. But a lot of times in my stories, I'm already talking about that. I'm taking people along with me to my showings, and I'm doing video walkthroughs of showings, or letting them know, like, hey, it's closing day. And they're seeing all of that already. So they know that I'm working and I'm in real estate and I'm closing on stuff. So I've slowly kind of been transitioning away from just having a static post of my own that says that, unless it's a listing, because then I think it's important to let people know, hey, if you are looking for a house in this area, I do have a new listing that's coming out. Kind of boosting that post and getting it out there so that I can generate some interest and advertise open houses so that people hopefully come and see me.
In terms of like doing walkthrough videos and things like that, how important has that been in kind of driving the sales of these homes?
It's funny, a lot of people will respond to those because I don't put the address. I just kind of do like a walkthrough inside the homes. But a lot of people will reach out to me and be like, where's that house? Where are you today? Because I do have a slightly larger territory than I think some other agents do. And part of it is the nature of where I live currently. I do live in a little town, and I guess I have bigger goals for myself than that. And where I have defined my versions of success are the goals that I set for myself at the beginning of the year, so that I can measure up to those. And I lived in an area before where my commute was an hour, every day in and out, from the suburbs to a city. So I was used to the drive time and being in the car, and I didn't know any areas when I moved here. So I had set, I told my office I'll go within an hour of here. So if referrals come through the office that you need an agent for that you think might be outside of what we will cover, I might cover it. I might be your girl. So, I've kind of focused on bigger areas, so people will reach out and say, "Where's that property? Where are you today?" My brother's looking, my sister's looking. Oh my gosh. I saw a client yesterday and she was like, I was trying to convince Tyler to come to your open house the other weekend. I really, really wanted to be there. I'm worried about the area. They've only been in their house for a year. I'm like, you guys can't move yet. But yeah, I mean, people will just reach out because they're interested in, people are nosy by nature. We all are. We love seeing inside of people's homes. I think it's why
Oh
those
yeah.
home flip shows are so successful, right? Like HGTV is its own channel because people love it.
And then they have like really like I find, you watch House Hunters. You have people have like really strong opinions on what house they think the people strangers that they've never met before. Listen, and I do this too. I have strong opinions on which house I think they should buy.
Yeah, yeah, because we're looking at them cosmetically. Like, this is the house that you need to live in. I would love to live there. And then we have to go back to all those things that I mentioned before, like location. But is it where they want to live? Is it, did they prefer something about the location of another house better? And that's why they ended up there. And then they're going to make changes to it to make it just as good as the one we all want them to get, the one we're all rooting for on TV.
Well, and I think that kind of brings the whole social media thing full circle is you can kind of create your own mini HGTV if you're, bringing people along with you on your journey in your stories and in your posts and in your videos. And listen, people are on their phones more than they're probably sitting in front of their television anymore, right? You can kind of create that within your own circle.
Yeah. Or they're sitting in front of their TV on their phones.
Or that.
They're like, oh, see, I'm gonna scroll, see what's happening today.
It's funny. I think like back in the day, I think men would get a lot of flack for this, right? For like watching multiple sports at the same time. And maybe younger people, this doesn't make as much sense. But I think, but now we all do it, right? We're all, on our phone and on the TV. And maybe there's something else or somebody else is on their phone and they're like, hey, look at this. We're all watching multiple screens now.
I know. And I think part of that too, I mean, I love social media and it has been a really important aspect of me being able to build my own brand here, and build my business here. I've managed to get a lot of referrals through social media, even from other agents out of state that have looked me up through social media, just through hashtag searches. But then the other side of that is where I'm like, okay, there is a time when we have to put our devices down and we need to have in the moment time, and be present with one another and actually have quality time together. And I think it's the same even with my clients. Sometimes I don't give them any of the paperwork for a house and I ask them like, hey, I'll have clients looking for other houses while we're in a house. Like, ooh, I forgot to tell you, I saw another one. I'm like, okay, how about we do that? Let's go through this house. So you're actually looking at it and you can ask me any questions that you have. And then at the end, pull up your phone and let me know what other homes you might want to go and take a look at. Because I think it's hard. You are so attached to your device, social media, everything, that even when we do a final walkthrough, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even remember this. I didn't know that had said this. I'm like, oh.
I think that's a great piece of advice to throw out there is, making sure your client is really like taking in the house they're walking through while they're walking through it.
Yeah. And like I said, I won't even, anything that I've printed off, any information I've printed off about the home, I don't give them until the end. Because it's human nature. If you hand them something, they're going to start looking at it instead of their surroundings. And listen, I have absolutely terrible situational awareness. Like, my husband will attest to that. He will say it all the time. He'll be like, did you see this? I'm like, what? He's like, oh my gosh, like it was, something was just happening 5 feet from you. I'm like, yeah, I didn't see it. And so I do work on that. And so it's something that I like to help my clients work on too. Let's go through, let's really take a look at the house. Let's see if you do really like it. And then we'll go through everything.
Carolyn, do you have anything you're looking forward to this year? It doesn't have to be real estate related.
I'm going to a Post Malone concert. I'm really excited for that.
Oh, wow. Cool. When's that?
In September.
Nice. Oh man, I
Yes.
hope you have a
Not real
great
estate
time.
related. That's what I'm looking forward to. We just had family vacation, so I was really looking forward to that, but now we'll have to plan our next one. And then with real estate, I'm just looking forward to kind of embracing. I've never shied away from change. So I know there's a lot of agents that are anxious with the recent changes that have happened with NAR. Um, but I mean, I feel like my last 7, 8 years has been a lot of change. I moved countries. I went through immigration. We got married. I became a bonus mom to 3 incredible kids. I just feel like there's been, for me, a lot of change, and it's all been good, a career change. And so I think one of the other things that I'm looking forward to in real estate is just seeing how these new changes evolve with our business and how it changes the way that we do business.
Ooh, that's so great. Well, I am so excited for you to embrace all these changes, for you to go to your concert. Carolyn, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. Would you like to direct people how they can find you and how they can work with you?
So, I mean, I'm accessible obviously through social media. I've got a personal page and a business page. I honestly don't use my business page very much. I kind of focus just on my personal one, and my business one has the automatic postings that go to it from other sites through our CRM system, because I want my clients to see not just the business side of me. So, Instagram, Facebook, they can call me, text me, email me. I mean, really all the ways.
Awesome. And we'll have it all linked in the description so everyone can find it super
Perfect.
easy. Carolyn, thank you so much.
Thank you. I was really excited to be here today.
Thank you for listening to the Closing Table podcast brought to you by WindowStill. I'm Kat Schooler. Please be sure you're following our podcast on Apple or Spotify. And if you're part of our YouTube audience, hit that subscribe button. If you're enjoying this podcast, please consider leaving us up to a 5-star review or a comment. It helps us find more amazing listeners like you. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.